this is MTG Nexus coming at you with a short deck tech before we finish up the league we started the other night. We are playing Izzet Prowess, version that's a slight variant of one we did a couple nights prior, the main edition being a 19th land of the form of Fiery Islet. Cutting an opt for that. Not a huge fan of getting stuck on the one-landers. Oftentimes, those are the kind of hands that get out of control very quickly. And once again, doesn't help to flood out with these kind of decks. So I add the fourth copy of Fiery Islet. So much like the various burn decks, we do have at least 4 can lands to cantrip in the mid to late game should we start flooding out a little bit. Beyond that, this is the version with the 4 Sprite, 4 Stormwing Entity, no copies of Bedlam Reveler. So we do want to try to generally end the game pretty quickly. We don't necessarily have the grinding power of some of the other variants with Bedlam Reveler or some of the other stuff like Hayashi does with some of the mono red variants. Swiftspear and Soulscar Mage running out the creature suite along with 1 copy of Brazen Borrower, which I don't think I've actually cast the Brazen Borrower part of the card in like any matches so far of the 8 we've played with this particular list. I have used the Petty Theft a couple times to some effect. I think it won us a game with Eldrazi Tron and a few other situations. So having that one of bounce effect that's also a creature and a threat is kind of nice. Beyond that, you have to have some amount of free spells for Stormwing Entity. So you have 4 copies of Manamorphose, 3 copies of Mutagenic Growth, 2 copies of Gutshot. The one thing I will say about Mutagenic Growth is a very good card in terms of protecting your creatures from bolts and such, which can be relevant in the format. However, there have been a couple times where it's been our free spell in hand, and we had no 1-drop creature, no Swiftspear, no Soulscar Mage, and couldn't trigger our Stormwing Entity as a result. So maybe it's possible you're supposed to flip-flop the number of Gutshots and Mutagenic Growths. Beyond that, Bolt, Lava Dart, Burst Lightning, also your interaction for creatures. 4 copies of Manamorphose and Light Up a Stage help you kind of get through the deck a little bit. And then beyond that, obviously a couple copies of Opt to continue card selection and such, as you do need to draw mostly gas after your initial couple of lands. As far as the sideboard is quite a nice balanced mix. You have a couple copies of Ether Gust for red mirrors and a bunch of other decks, including Titan and comes in against Tron, potentially, and some other spots. Also comes in against Uropiles, 2 copies of Spell Pierce. This kind of card is a bit of a hedge, once again kind of indicating that we are trying to end the game rather quickly, as opposed to something like Mystical Dispute, which is more targeted against blue decks. 2 copies of Surgical Extraction for Graveyard Hate effects. Not sure if this is the correct one. Obviously, it plays nicely with our Stormwing Entities, and it allows us to, potentially trim on like Gutshots against other decks where it might be a dead card. 2 copies of Abrade when you need some more outs to Chalice primarily, as well as a little bit more interaction for creature decks. 3 copies of Cleansing Wildfire, obviously with the blue splash, unless we're running a basic island. We can't really afford to run Blood Moon, so Cleansing Wildfire is a nice hedge, especially against the various Tron matchups, both Green Tron and E-Tron. Kozilek's Return for creature-based decks, especially, while decks like Humans and Merfolk can kind of outgrow it, it is nice to have that effect against them. Also fairly decent against the Death and Taxes decks, which are kind of all the rage right now. Also pretty good against Burn. Generally doesn't kill your own creatures. I mean, it can kill Sprite Dragon, but, your Prowess creatures, obviously, it will not kill. And it does kill problematic things like Burning Forge Tender, Core Firewalker, Auriok Champion, etc. because of the Devoid mechanic. Devoid mechanic makes it colorless. And finally, 2 copies of Dragon's Claw for various mirror matches. Now, it's been a couple of days, so I don't remember what exactly our matches were last time out. I think one of them was the mirror. I think one of them was... I honestly don't remember. One was mono red Prowess. One was... I honestly forget what this one was. Honestly, I forget what all 3 matches were, but I do know it was kind of disappointing, but also not surprising. So if you want to check that out, the stream VOD a couple days ago would have it, and then it'll be up on the YouTube channel probably in a day or two, because I still have the first Izzet League to get up. So hopefully we'll get these matches done quickly and get some time in on our World of Warcraft stuff. Because I did not do it the other night, so we just streamed Izzet Prowess a couple matches, and I took last night off to get some stuff done. Actually, truth be told, went to bed early last night and did the stuff this morning. So Sand's obviously a mulligan. We have no creatures, even with double Manamorphose lay up the stage. Feels like we're just kind of spewing resources. Opponent does show us Obosh, so potentially up against a mirror match here. Sand doesn't have a creature, but I am much more likely to keep it now that we know we're up against Obosh, and Lava Dart can obviously pair with lay up the stage, potentially find us a threat. I think I put back Islet here. You know, while flooding can definitely be a concern, I'm just going to play Scalding Tarn here. It's possible I'm just supposed to play Steam Vents tapped, but I do want the ability to Burst Lightning a creature they play. Feels like Blister Coil weird. It's one of the weird things you pick up on sometimes is the tapping procedures on Magic Online. You can sometimes pick up on just from the perspective of having played the deck, you know what you're up against. So if they use a mutagenic growth, I think I'm fine with that. And we spike a land here, so I'm just going to go ahead and Burst Lightning their face, which may not be the correct play here, but I do want to trigger lay up the stage. Stormwing Entity next turn, kind of nice. Hopefully and then we have a Lava Dart to kind of quasi-protect it. So hopefully, okay, Swiss Spear, do they have a second land? They might not. Okay, Sprite Dragon, does that change the equation? Don't think it does, especially since we got to cast Stormwing Entity this turn. It's a little bit awkward, but it is what it is. I think we bottom both those. And we have no way we can protect it even with the Lava Dart against the Flame Slash. So yeah, it looks like we're up against an older version of Hayashi's Prowess deck. That deck is built to grind. So what is our best play here? 2, 3, 4... I guess I don't need to shock in until I see what the Lava Dart hits, or the whatchamacallit hits, I mean. Going to be dealing ourselves a lot of damage here, but I do think it's going to be worth it in the end. Especially if our opponent continues to be stuck on one land. It's going to cast the Soulscar Mage. I don't particularly care if they bolt that. Much more interested in protecting the Sprite Dragon. Because barring their own Soulscar Mage, they're going to have a hard time killing this now. Because this will protect it from Flame Slash, and then it will at least require 2 spells to kill the creature from here on out. Speak of the devil, and it shall appear. Manamorphose. That's interesting. I think I go red-green here, right? This is called Chaining the Spells. That's kind of a bummer. This is 8, 10, 11, 12. We can put them to 2. Not taking unnecessary damage here. No blocks. Okay, Cotton. If I had any spell there, you were just dead. But I suppose you have to run that gambit and hope, right? Just don't think on one land you're going to be able to kill me here. And I don't think you're going to be able to deal with Sprite Dragon with one land either, so I think you're dead. Chaining Manamorphoses there was quite nice. Okay, they have a second land. So we have 1 Burst Lightning, 4 Bolts, 3 Lava Spikes. It's like a light up the stage, maybe? I'm not even sure Land Double Dart does it there. 4, 3, 3, 3, 3? Plus 2? Yeah, I suppose that would have done it. But that's asking a lot of their situation over there. Sure. You have double bolt. Okay. Alright, so we definitely want Abrades. Definitely want Dragon's Claws. Definitely want Ether Gusts. Spell Pierces are a consideration. Lava Dart's kind of awkward, right? Because, like, if they leave in Blister Coil Weird, it answers that quite nicely. But if they don't leave in Blister Coil Weird, it's really awkward. Cut the ops. Some number of lava darts. Sprite Dragon's a little bit awkward in the face of their lava darts, although it didn't. Obviously, it won us that game, but it's a little awkward in sequencing sometimes. Gutshot we kind of have to leave in for Stormwing Entity purposes. Obviously, we're a little bit vulnerable to Blood Moon. Maybe I'm supposed to bring in something like Spell Pierce. But how you doing tonight, Seeker? How's everybody else doing this evening? Sounds fine. I mean, not the greatest hand we could ever have, but still pretty reasonable. Like, we don't have a hard answer to a 1-drop creature. Lava Dart. I mean, if they have Blister Coil, obviously it can answer. Okay, sure. I mean, I'm pretty sure you're supposed to board this one out, but you know. Especially since I know Hayashi's builds don't tend to have mutagenic growth in them. That's just kind of a free roll. Sure, this is a Let's turn. Why would you... Why would you Lava Dart my face there? That makes little, if any, sense. Pretty sure that was supposed to be a... And if they want to sacrifice their only land to kill my Sprite Dragon, I am perfectly okay with that. Sure. Let's play Soul Skirmish, pass turn. What do you do with this Flame Slash? It's on the bottom. Awkward. Stormwing Entity and Brazen Burrower. I'm interested in their Stormwing Entity. I do think I'm interested in bolting your face. Maybe I shouldn't do that because of potentially answering another creature of theirs. We have Lava Dart to potentially protect the Stormwing entity here. They finally gonna do that Lutz that they were telegraphing for some amount of time. Is this a concession incoming? Yep, feels like a concession incoming. Alright, 2-2. One more game, or one more match to go in this league. Definitely a quieter night than some of our more recent streams, but I suppose the weekends have a little bit less clutter as far as people streaming, so. At least during the evenings and late nights. I do think those were maybe not the best keeps by our opponent, and a little bit of questionable play sequencing, but especially considering that deck operates quite well on 5 and 6 card mulligans, just because it has so much redundancy and so much card advantage between alright, so we're on the draw with a 2-lander. Yeah, sounds pretty good. Maybe not against this matchup, but pretty good overall. Wonder if I'm supposed to not play a creature this turn. Well, Swiftspear does make that a little bit more difficult. So, just play a Soulscar Mage. If they want to Boulder push it, that's whatever. You just had nothing? It's a heck of a sick bluff. How many removal spells does the deck have? Apparently they just ripped the... whatchamacallit? What am I even facing? Not a Death Shadow variant. Maybe a Stoneblade variant? Okay, there's Spyro. Pitching Souls. Okay, it looks like we're up against Mardu Pyromancer of some variant. It's traditionally been a rough matchup for creature-based decks in the past, at least. It was always a close matchup for Burn and not a great matchup for decks like Humans, so I don't know where Prowess would be in that mix. So tempting to risk casting Opt here. I think I want the third land. I don't think I'm particularly interested in the fourth one. Not much, War Dog. How you doing? Don't think I'm swinging in. I'm not trading my creatures for tokens when next turn's like really my turn. Thanks for subbing, War Dog. Did you do that off camera? Subbing, War Dog. Did you do that off camera? Echo, echo, echo. That's annoying. What we can do about that. Four mana to kill our 2 mana play. Guess that's alright. Oh, what happened? We're prone to 8 there. It's possible I was supposed to keep the Storming Entity, but I just don't feel like it does enough at this point. Like, they have the Seasoned Pyromancer for tokens this turn, which is kind of annoying. That's rough. Well, I mean, that seems like a beatable card, right? We just got hit by a fully pumped up Kaya's Guile. That's rough. And they still have whatchamacallit tokens in the holster. Spyro tokens in the holster. Are they literally playing the... Yeah, they're playing the Pathway lands. Interesting. This is kind of some kind of... I would say it's budget, except they're playing Seasoned Pyromancer, like one of the most expensive cards in the modern format. Oof. That's rough. I really hate the card Lingering Souls with the Prowess deck, I have a feeling. to go ahead and scoop to this, because this is a 2-turn clock, even with whatchamacallit going on here, and there's no, like, yeah, I need that crash through that we don't run. Because it's not usually needed in a red variant. I have no idea what to board here. Surgical is probably good against Lingering Souls. Kozilek's Return's probably pretty decent here. Can figure they probably have Young Peasy too. Could potentially want Spell Pierce in this kind of a matchup. Ether Gust could be okay. Although they showed us a lot more black and white spells than they did red. Gut Shot's awkward, but I still think it's a card we're interested in. Brazen Borrower feels pretty bad in this kind of a matchup. Shiva Mutagenic Growth, maybe. Try it like this. Yeah, Crash Through or Kozilek's Return would have been nice there, but you know, at least post-board we have some answers to a horde of angry tokens. But that doesn't look like they pump up particularly much. This hand's pretty reasonable. Except, yeah, I still think we keep this hand just because of Kozilek's Return, but 4-lander's a little rough without a Canopy land. I think this was a rough matchup to run into. Please don't have Inquisition. Okay, Fatal Push I can deal with. Of course you have to have Inquisition. Why wouldn't you? It's also one of the advantages a Pyromancer deck had was the fact that it was quite good at outgrinding other mid-range decks before, obviously, Europile was a thing. But just Lingering Souls, Young Pyromancer plus tokens, Seasoned Pyromancer and tokens. Just a lot for mid-range decks like Jund to try to chew through. And then they also randomly played Blood Moon too, which was like kind of insane. They usually were packing things like Kemball and such. Surgical off the top, please. Nope, just another 1-for-1 rule spell. And this is when Prowess looks like a really bad burn deck. Wow, that's some spice. Got some fatal pushes, some cling to dusts. Magmatic Chandlers, it looks like, instead of young Pyromancers. They've got some smiting helixes to get some more value off of discard. Yeah, this looks like a nightmare. I guess the one thing that's positive is they don't have a particularly fast clock outside of Magmatic Chandler. Unfortunately, Chandler is quite a card, so we'll just pass here. They have Smiting Helix and Chandler in hand, so they can pitch the Helix, which is unfortunate. We probably just pitch Gut Shot. Does leave us with a little Yana to deal with, which probably isn't very beatable, but kind of awkward. We're going to draw step this. Does basically leave them with Seasoned Pyro... Oh, just double Smiting Helix, which would have been fantastic to grab with Surgical here. Now we're just dead over a couple turns. Let's play this out. We're basically dead here. Why would you not just edict here? I guess we're dead the same way, either way, but because we're just dead on board the two Smiting Helixes and the Spirit Token. Kind of a rough ending, but very interesting. I don't know what to make of that league. We played some really weird matchups in that league. Played against one of the older variants of Hayashi Prowess with the Obosh variant that we've played ourselves. And then we played against a updated version of Mardu Pyromancer, I guess. Makes some amount of sense. I'm not really going to argue with you. Especially since the red-black Prowess deck has basically become red-black Death Shadow now for the most part. So there's really not much to discuss anymore. Like, Izzet, I think, is a little bit more explosive and might have a little bit more in terms of, like, evasive threats. But I'm not sure that it's better than Red, especially since Red has so many different ways it can be built, as Hayashi has shown, and as, you know, just through the variants from the original Phoenix variant to the more refined, like 444, 4 Soulscar, 4 Swift Spear, 4 Bedlam Reveler versions, to the Kiln Fiend versions that have popped up here and there. I don't really think there's much argument. Plus, you get to play Blood Moon. You know, it's a pretty solid base overall. The Izzet version's fine. It's got its pluses and minuses. I don't think this version, at least this particular version, grinds quite as well as Red. And the matchups that we were getting into, really awkward for our particular build. Yeah, Bedlam is very good. I agree there. Beyond that, you know, I kind of like where this version's at, even though the results haven't been, like, spectacular. You know, sometimes you just run in some weird matchups, especially in the, like, 500 or losers bracket. Sometimes you just run into some weird decks. No, you're not wrong, War Dog. Like there is facts to back up your position, and you know, is it necessarily the best right now? Probably not, because I don't think it matches up particularly great against the Shadow variants. At least not the traditional mono red, but I still think it's a fine deck, especially if you like tune to beat Shadow, like Ratchet Bombs or, you know, that kind of nonsense. And you don't have the vulnerability of, like, fetch lands and stuff, like the Taxes decks that have showed up. Because the main decks that showed up this past weekend, just going off of what Fran's breakdown was, and what some of Grim Flare was talking about, and a few other things, you saw a lot of, like, Titan Reclamation decks. There was a lot of Taxes decks, Mono White Death and Taxes, and the new Shadow variant with, like, Bomat Courier that Doomwake was working on, and a few other people did really well this weekend. So I really think decks like Izzet Phoenix, or not Izzet Phoenix, yeah, Izzet Phoenix, I'm showing my age here, Izzet Prowess, and those decks are kind of on the way back down just because they don't match up particularly well against larger creatures like Death Shadow. I don't know that I like Burn's position in that kind of a meta either. Like, it can match up against Shadow to a certain degree. It's not great against Taxes. And Amulet Titan's a bad matchup. Reclamation Titan's a little bit easier, but still not, like, great. So I don't know that either Prowess or Burn are particularly well positioned right now, other than the Hayashi brand of craziness, which just seems to mow through everything at some point. Yeah, I'm tempted to stick my toe into that, like, deck sometime in the next couple of days, but I've really been trying to focus on the red content, and I'm not really sure that is. You have like 25 of them to sell. The real reason, War Dog, the real reason. But yeah, format's in an interesting place right now. Like, it's pretty funny when even Europile isn't necessarily the best deck in the format. Like, it might actually just be another Death Shadow variant, albeit a more aggressive version with Scourge of the Sky Rage, or whatever the heck it is, Scourge of the Sky Clave. I don't know. We had those couple nice runs with Burn, and then it's just been kind of fitty with the leagues the last several times out. So, don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, I hear ya. All gonna make ends meet in this economy. Alright, well, that's pretty much going to be my thoughts on Izzet Prowess right now. I keep saying Izzet Phoenix, and Izzet Phoenix is a dead deck, so I don't know why it keeps coming to mind. Maybe because it got brought up on Ghost Chat tonight. Someone was like, because they saw a thing in the ice and blue and red lands, that it might be Izzet Phoenix. I'm like, no, it's probably Blue Moon. Sure enough, it was Blue Moon. But yeah. Just going to stop the YouTube's recording here, but might continue chatting.